If you are a wimp, this book is not for you. The suggestions I make in this book are difficult and require sacrifice, and if you, as a male, do not feel you are up to the challenge, put this book down and go elsewhere. What I am going to describe to you requires a revolution to change the culture, and thus the political climate in this country that allows laws and actions against the male sex that would never be allowed against the female one. Perhaps you think this is fair, that men should suffer for the ills of their ancestors and for the discrimination against women in the past. Maybe you are a chivalrous white knight type who loves nothing more than the thought of saving a damsel in distress and would like to see your fellow man brought to his knees by laws that limit men's reproductive and personal lives as well as their livelihoods. Maybe you have political ambitions or work in a field that requires you to favor female privilege over male justice, and you have no intention of changing because you benefit from this two-way arrangement. Maybe you are just a guy who wants to get laid and acts in a politically correct manner in the hope of getting more women. If so, you are not my audience, but you might want to stick around and learn something. If you are a woman, the main focus of this book is on men, but you may find some of the information of interest. It may help you to understand more about what the typical men are going through in this country, and why they don't marry as readily anymore or go to college as often as they once did. 9 deep lessons from the book, Men on Strike. Number 1. Western culture has spent the past 50 years making marriage a better deal for women, while for men it's become a real ball and chain, sometimes almost literally. Men used to go to work, come home, and tear a hard day's work, providing for their families. They rested, ate dinner, and felt like the king of the castle. Fast forward to today, where the man works all day, comes home to cook or wash dishes, is chided for not doing a good enough job, is relegated to the basement while the wife and kids enjoy the run of the house, and spends the weekends watching the kids with a dirty diaper bag slung across his shoulders or hanging out in a shopping mall holding his wife's purse. On top of an already stressful life, he also gets a bunch of pitying stares from the younger men who wonder what he has become and how they can avoid the same fate. Now, instead of equality in marriage, he can expect to share household tasks, act as unpaid bodyguard and home repairman, pay for most of the bills, help with the kids, and for all his efforts, be denigrated by the wife and society. And if he does fight back, he pays child support, gets half or more of his stuff taken, and has to leave the house. And he might even get a restraining order, or worse, be charged with child or domestic abuse. What is there to gain? Number 2. In the past, having a sketchy wife who cheated was frowned upon, and there were repercussions to her for doing so. Now cheating women are celebrated and encouraged by the culture. Now that the risk in marriage for men is so high, guys must be much more careful about whom they marry. Neither the law nor the culture will support them if they make the wrong choice. Women are the empowered sex, and their sexuality is celebrated. Men's sexuality is much more controlled by the legal system and society, even or maybe especially in marriage. You will also lose much of your income and assets in divorce court, and may even lose your kids, even if the wife cheats. And you are always cast as the bad guy. People wonder what you did to make your wife cheat. If a man cheats, on the other hand, the wife is a victim, and he's a louse who deserves punishment. Number 3. Warren Farrell makes clear, in The Myth of Male Power, although it's his body, a man has no choice when it comes to deciding whether or not to be a dad. He states, in the 1990s, if a woman and man make love and she says she is using birth control but is not, she has the right to raise the child without his knowing he even has a child, and then to sue him for retroactive child support even 10 to 20 years later, depending on the state. This forces him to take a job with more pay and more stress and therefore earlier death. He has the option of being a slave, working for another without pay or choice, or being a criminal. Roe v. Wade gave women the vote over their bodies. Men still don't have the vote over theirs, whether in love or war. Number 4. Paternity fraud is so rampant that it is hard to get an exact count of how many men are either acting as fathers to kids they think are their own, or being forced to pay child support after having been wrongly told that they are the fathers to children that are not theirs. According to the organization Fathers and Families, Tens of thousands of men have been wrongly assigned paternity and are compelled by law to pay years of child support for children whom DNA tests have shown are not theirs. In many cases, the men have had little or no contact with the children they're required to support, and some had no idea they were fathers until their wages were garnished for child support. Number 5. Imagine that women were taking flight from the nation's universities and colleges. We would have a national uproar. When men flee, it's worth a mention once in a while, and there is a bit of hand-wringing over what effect their apathy will have on women. Who will they date? Who will they marry? Will the men be good enough for them? What about hypergamy? Women need to marry up, so the men better man up, get educated, and make plenty of money to make women feel more secure. But it seems that many men are no longer going along with the plan. Some have given up on college, as it has become a finishing school for women, and others never had the chance to consider it, as they became disconnected from school a long time ago. Number 6. Men are now subject to so many sexual harassment and campus policies surrounding their sexuality that they are afraid to have much to do with the multitudes of women surrounding them on the average college campus. Women may complain that there are no men available, but while there is a man shortage, the men who are on campus are often reluctant to get involved with their female cohorts because they lack the rights afforded to a common criminal in a court of law. So only men can consent to sex when intoxicated. If he has sex when drunk, he is responsible. But if a woman does, she isn't. Isn't that sexist toward women? But as you can see, women are always seen as weak and vulnerable when it comes to consent to sex, and men are always seen as the perpetrators, even if they are only 15 years old. Like in the last chapter where a young boy was ordered by the courts to pay for his 34-year-old victimizer's baby. Teenage boys are apparently wise beyond their years when it comes to sex, but grown women must be protected from any sexual decisions they make when a man or boy is involved. Number 7. Colleges have now become privileged finishing schools for girls. Except rather than teaching manners, they teach women that men are the enemy and men are treated as such on campus, unless they go along with the program that keeps them cowed or striking a PC pose. Many men have just decided that they don't belong in college and are going on strike, consciously or unconsciously. How will this affect their wages and lifestyles in the coming decades? If nothing changes, and more men drop out of college or never attend, how will this change society? Will men continue to become the other and be further relegated to second-class status where women and society are afraid of them and they are hesitant to participate fully in the public sphere? Is this already happening? Number 8. Men are now opting out of work and marriage altogether or are just not trying as hard in many cases. While this may be good for individual men, it is not good for society as a whole. The system we now have in place treats men with little to no respect and does not reward them, but actively punishes them for doing the things that society has come to expect. Women as a whole don't seem to like that men are now going on strike. Whether men were kicked out or opted out of the job market and marriage, we should all be concerned with where this is leading as a society. Let me say again that as an individual man, opting out or going on strike is a valuable tool that may serve you well. Number 9. Equality is not a zero-sum game where if one group has power, the others have less or none. We can strive for equality so that all people, including men, can live more productive and autonomous lives. Even in a politically correct article in The Guardian on how boys and men must be included in the conversation on equality to help women, or course, the author acknowledged, there's something dangerously retributive about an approach that simply flips an inequity around and approaches power as a zero-sum game. One men can't sit back any longer and let our female-privileged society continue down this road of revenge and retribution, for it will not end in a good place for men or society. If you haven't subscribed to our channel, you probably will not see us again. If you have, congratulations, you are growing every day.